shift for a police officer.
It started out as nothing.
It was innocuous. It was a little crime.
Can quickly take an extraordinary turn.
A simple traffic stop went stratospheric within 2 minutes.
Speed is 70 miles an hour.
He's outside the petrol station fighting with another male.
A routine case.
You can start off with something and it can turn into something completely different.
Taser! Taser! I'm here from you!
Can suddenly spiral into a serious incident.
Then it switched. He locked the door. She knew that something was very, very wrong here.
Stand by, I think we're going to have a decamp. One got out of the baseball bat. There's a ton of cannabis in the car.
They were literally on a rampage.
Sometimes the most minor crimes.
I was looking for a stolen quad bike, found a lot more.
Can crack major cases.
We were now possibly looking at a serial killer.
Today on Big Little Crimes, a routine call-out.
This looks like it's a tragic accident.
Takes a sinister turn.
This was a cold, calculated murder, and probably one of the worst murders I've dealt with.
A dodgy gambler reveals links to major organised crime.
We were dealing with something a lot bigger here, and this was just the tip of the iceberg.
But first, a regular check on a speeding motorbike takes an extraordinary twist when police give chase.
It's a left, left, left. Come here now! On your front, on the floor, hands behind your back. Yeah, it is now failing to stop. Ketchum Road in towards town.
After nearly 2 decades catching criminals, Detective Constable Dave Bastuba thinks he's seen it all.
You are going to deal with things. You are going to see things. You are going to be exposed to things that you might not have seen in your previous life.
But sometimes, even he gets caught by surprise. That's what happened with one routine case, which got off to a very fast start.
An officer was on patrol in uniform in a marked vehicle. And at that time, the officer saw a motorcycle come the opposite direction in Northampton town centre towards him. And he thought that motorcycle was going quite quick for being within the town centre area. So that alerted his suspicion.
In the UK, speeding offences are the most common vehicle crime the police have to deal with. The officer takes the usual action of following the motorbike to see what it's up to. The rider picks up pace, and the officer knows what to do next.
He took the number plate, those digits and letters, and he put them from a police national computer to establish what kind of vehicle it should be, who the owner is, or does it have insurance.
It's a standard number plate check, but the response is far from routine.
It came back to a Mazda vehicle, but it was clearly a motorcycle. So at this point now, the officer's suspicion is raised quite a lot. So as the officer ignited the blue lights and requested for that motorcycle to pull over, the motorcycle decided to speed up through the town centre.
The chase is on, but the motorcycle refuses to stop. He runs a red light. What's he got to hide?
But at this point, he did not know why the motorcycle had a Mazda registration plate or why this motorcycle failed to stop for a police officer.
Yeah, I've looked the vehicle up, it is in the distance, still speed, 80, going in towards Northampton Ketchum Road. So by heavy braking, yeah, it is now failing to stop, Ketchum Road in towards town. Speed 80, road conditions are wet, super driver, super vehicle. Which channel do you want me to remain on? Now, Ketchum Road into town, approaching Morrison's now. It's a left, 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 Northwood Road. It's going to go onto a footpath, I can't follow. So boys, crash, he's off and running.
The suspect abandons the motorbike and flees on foot.
Running, footpath, end of Northwood Road. I think he's going up towards Broadmead Avenue. Got right through a gate. Come here now! Oh, let's look flat. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back. On your front. On your front, on the floor.
Compliant.
On your front, on the floor, hands behind your back.
Later, the chase isn't over. It's about to take a major turn.
Go on the floor.
Not doing it.
On the floor. Get on the floor! Get on the floor! Yeah, just land me one. We're now running back up. On the footpath.
Our next case today begins on the tail of a suspicious gambler and follows a trail of cash linked to a major crime network. Casinos, a world of wealth, glamour, and high stakes. But where there's money, there are criminals trying to get their hands on it. And in some cases, they win big. Cracking this kind of intricate financial crime is what DS Trevor Dickey lives for.
I could see that technology-enabled crime was becoming something new. So for me, that was, an opportunity to really specialise in something very, very different.
He spent years in the National High-Tech Crime Unit, investigating cybercriminals. It was this expertise that helped him to crack one highly sophisticated case. And it all starts when a woman walks into a central London casino.
The lady just appeared to be like any other, person attending the casino, generally well turned out, to give that air of, success, that she had money.
Although she looks the part, casino security quickly noticed something out of the ordinary.
The lady concerned came into the casino, cashed out £1,000 of chips using a bank card. She then moved from table to table. It didn't appear to be really gambling.
Security do a trawl of CCTV footage and spot the woman doing the same thing, time and time again.
When they started to look at her previous visits, they became suspicious because the names on the cards were changing. And so that was a real red flag for them.
She's using dozens of different bank cards, all in different names. Something doesn't add up. When the casino alerts police, the case is passed on to Trevor's cyber team. His first instinct is that he already knows what she's up to.
Because we'd had a number of other investigations that centred around, identity theft, online fraud, we became suspicious that she was lower level type fraud, so where she has access to the card, low values initially, but high volume.
Identity fraud is one of the fastest growing crimes. More than 250,000 cases are reported to police each year.
That activity can have the benefit of several thousands of pounds of fraud in one person's hands.
Trevor heads to the casino in search of solid evidence to back up his suspicions.
The decision was made to go back to the casino and work with the security staff, revisit some of the CCTV and establish, was there a timeline, a pattern of when she would attend.
Trevor believes the woman could be using the casino to draw out money from different accounts and turn it into cash. But where is the money coming from? He notices the cards are all from the same bank.
Criminals are very, very quick at picking up on opportunities. What we did notice was that it was consistently one bank, because one moving money from one account to another within the same bank probably doesn't have as many checks as if you're moving it to a different bank.
Trevor's hunch is that there's a good reason why this high street bank has been chosen.
This particular bank, from a business perspective, was also being very proactive in getting people from within Europe who were coming to work in the UK to really just make it easier for them to be able to open accounts.
It's the first clue that this little crime might be something much bigger. Trevor needs to figure out how the woman's getting her hands on the money, and if she's part of a larger criminal network.
We made a sort of a tactical decision that we would conduct proactive surveillance at the casino to see if we could then, one, follow her activity in the casino to try and get a better idea of what she was doing, but also to track her movements once she had left the casino to establish connections to any other people. You know, is there somebody waiting for her?
Trevor and his team set up at the casino and watch the woman's every move.
Casinos do have good CCTV coverage, so you're able to follow somebody's movements pretty well just from the CCTV in a control room without actually having to have officers, you know, in the casino pretending, because there is always the risk that, you know, their activity draws the attention.
He observes her taking out £1,000 each night, having a little flutter, and then cashing in most of the chips.
I think the purpose of her sort of drawing to about £1,000 on the card is because that was under the threshold for the banks, particularly drawing the attention.
But why go to so much trouble when she could just use a cash machine?
A lot of cards would have a maximum spend for the day. And so it's about timing, you know, when you use that card to be able to get the benefit of that maximum withdrawal at the time.
Cash machines have a standard withdrawal limit of £300. But she's able to get out more than that to buy chips at the casino. Trevor suspects she's involved in a bigger fraud network, and he needs her to lead him to the other players. The surveillance team takes the risky decision to follow her out of the casino. But if they're spotted, officers could blow their cover and the entire case. They carefully follow her to a house where she meets a man.
We conducted further surveillance on the premises because, again, we wanted to build up a picture of people, you know, coming and going to see was there more to it, you know, really what her involvement was.
Trevor's team spend days staking out the property. They realize the suspect lives there with the mystery man. But what's their relationship? And is he even connected to this crime? Meanwhile, other officers are examining the woman's bank accounts. And they found something that just doesn't add up.
There is a very high frequency of money transfers coming into particularly the accounts that she had used, the one that she controlled mainly. It started to give us names of other people that we thought, okay, this is perhaps a bigger network.
Finding these other names in the suspect's account is a huge leap forward. It's the first piece of solid evidence that she's not working alone.
What we started to establish was that a lot of these accounts were being opened with fake identities or false passports, and we started to see the same individual's photograph.
This is now much more than a woman behaving unusually at a London casino. What Trevor notices next transforms the investigation far beyond the capital.
And one of the patterns we saw in relation to the identity documents, i.e. the passports, is that they were from a variation of countries, but predominantly from, you know, Eastern Europe.
This is fraud on a massive scale, with links to global organized crime.
Actually, we've got a lot more going on here. We knew that they were involved in far bigger criminality, and the potential harm of what they were doing is way more, you know, significant.
Later, as the true scale of this major case unfolds,
this woman was running a money laundering network.
The net closes in on an international criminal gang.
She controlled a significant number of money mules.
Up to now, our cases have involved officers trying to keep the key suspect clearly in their sights. But in our next story, the trail is murkier and more deadly. Detective Chief Inspector Steve Whitaker always had to be at the top of his game.
I was a senior investigating officer in charge of homicides who dealt with everything really from manslaughter, murder, kidnaps, all the serious iron crime that was involved in it. Wanted people to be sent to prison who deserved to be sent to prison.
That dogged determination proved crucial in one of the biggest cases of Steve's career. And it all began one very ordinary match day weekend.
There was a big football match in Sheffield between Sheffield United and Manchester City. This was an FA Cup 5th round game.
There's a report of a car accident near Sheffield United's football stadium, Bramall Lane.
You've got a lot of traffic, a bit of foot traffic, vehicle traffic, and you've got quite a lot of police officers in that area and lots of members of public all attending a game.
The roads are packed, so the incident isn't all that surprising.
Police would have got to that first, they would have wondered what was happening, and probably at first thinking, well, this looks like it's a tragic accident.
It's a routine call-out. Police don't suspect a crime, but they soon make a shocking discovery.
I think the best way to describe it was quite chaotic. There was a vehicle, there was nobody in it, which is unusual, and there was a person dead, actually trapped under the front wheels of that vehicle. So quite an horrific sight for officers to attend. Is it an accident? It could be. We can't discount that. Has a person decided to kill themselves by jumping out into the road and they want to get run over, they want to end their life? You can't discount that. Or is there something actually more sinister afoot?
Police secure the potential crime scene. And it isn't long before they discover a set of tyre marks. They search the abandoned car for clues.
There's some real sinister items found within the car, which was a knife, very similar to this. A bandana used to disguise your face, and a discarded, left by mistake, mobile phone. There was also 2 axes, a balaclava, and some petrol. Things were unravelling quite quickly.
What started as an ordinary traffic accident has taken an extraordinary turn.
People, witnesses came forward and said that there was a man being attacked with baseball bats and hammers, with people dressed in balaclavas and their faces covered. So it became quite sinister.
A woman was also seen getting out of the car and running away laughing. This is now a murder investigation, and Steve's leading the hunt for the killers.
I got a phone call on the Sunday evening. I was told it's going to be a long day tomorrow.
The victim is named as 30-year-old Nawajid Khan. The post-mortem reveals he had a devastating head injury.
It was quite clear we needed to find out who was driving that vehicle, why he's dead, who's responsible, and joining all the dots up, really.
Step 1. Who is the owner of the car? And what Steve finds next is about to transform the whole investigation. The victim's wife, Faria Khan, bought the car using a false name just a day before her husband's death.
Faria Khan became a suspect, I think, quite quickly. Is that, attempts were made to notify her, as we would expect. You're going to notify the next of kin that a person's been killed or died in a road traffic accident or been murdered. She made herself unavailable. Her family members were told she'd not come home that evening. And secondly, there's a person seen running away, fitting her description, Asian female, and certainly some work colleagues of the victim came forward and said things weren't too rosy at home, to say the least. So everything's ramping up to go towards, actually, there's something not right here.
Steve's gut instinct tells him Faria is the key to this case.
By Monday afternoon, I'd gone out with some of the team and we'd set up, waiting for her to return home. And when she returned home, she was arrested on suspicion of murder.
But now the real pressure. With only 24 hours to question Faria, Steve needs to gain enough evidence or she'll be released without charge.
So she was interviewed and decided to make no comment to quite a few questions put to her. Well, you can draw your own conclusions from why somebody would make no comment.
The clock's ticking. Steve needs more evidence.
We found a mobile phone in the back of that car, so we sent that off to be examined to look at who you were texting on that phone, incoming and outgoing phone calls, and where that phone had been through interrogation, through masts, etc., where that phone had been prior to the murder. It was quite clear then that we had found out there was somebody else clearing that car and we'd got somebody else's name. That mobile phone turned out to be a mobile phone of a very close friend of Faria Khan's.
The phone belongs to her best friend, Neelam Kauser. Steve immediately brings her in for interview.
Neelam Kauser told us a great deal, really. I've never been in trouble with the police before, so I think down to her naivety and down to thinking, actually, I can push this away from myself. She told us that she was friends with Faria Khan. Faria Khan had befriended her. Faria Khan, she said, was with a guy that had not got very Western ideas. Faria Khan was really Westernised.
But what she reveals next is about to transform the investigation.
Faria Khan had started seeing somebody and she wanted him out of the way. And that out of the way means she wanted him dead.
Later, Steve's determination to crack the case uncovers the truth about the victim's brutal murder.
He was getting away. He was managing to fight his way. And she, I think, just lost the plot and decided to kill him.
Back on the tail of a speeding motorcyclist, an everyday traffic stop is fast becoming one to remember.
That boy's crash, he's off and running. Running, footpath, end of Northwood Road. I think he's going up towards Broadmead Avenue.
A dramatic chase is now continuing on foot.
Got right through a gate. Come here now! Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back. On your front. On your front, on the floor. Compliant.
The officers finally catch up with the suspect, but need to handcuff him and find out who he is.
What's your name? What's your name?
Why?
Huh?
Why?
I'm asking your name.
Get my handcuffs off.
Right. You're going in handcuffs?
Get the handcuffs off. Can you get the handcuffs off, please?
Go on the floor.
I'm not doing it.
On the floor. Get on the floor! Get on the floor! Yeah, you just lamped me one. We're now running back up onto the footpath. Up towards Broadmead Avenue, Northwood Road. He's running still at the footpath.
The officer desperately needs backup to help catch him. A police dog handler is in the area and ready to follow the scent.
It's going to have been coming out of there. He's either gone that way or that way.
There's no sign of him. Suddenly, they spot the suspect.
But at this time, the male had discarded his jacket. And as you turn around, you recognise the male.
It's the familiar face of a local serial burglar. A minor number plate check has led police to a well-known thief. But why was he so keen to get away this time? While the man is arrested and taken back to the station, the police need to track down the jacket he ditched during the chase. The sniffer dog sets to work.
The orange jacket was recovered, and inside them was a glass hammer. Now, glass hammer, we have them in our police cars as well. You can break car windows with them. They're quite strong, they have a metal point. So we found that within there, and I believe there were some gloves as well.
The police know this man is a prolific burglar, and the hammer and gloves could be evidence that he's out committing more crime. They go back to the motorbike he abandoned during the chase and find more crucial evidence. Some medication with the burglar's name and date of birth on it. This is the breakthrough they needed. It confirms the rider's identity and links him to the motorbike and the jacket. The case against him is getting stronger and stronger. But who does the bike belong to?
When the officer checked the engine number for their motorcycle, they established that it had been stolen a month earlier in a burglary in Kettering.
From speeding to bike theft to burglary. And Dave knows all about that case. He spent the last few weeks trying to crack it.
Police received a phone call that a person had come home from work and that he had a motorcycle locked up to the lamppost outside his address, but somebody had broken through his front door and taken the key for their motorcycle and had ridden it off.
Now it's case closed. The suspect was caught on CCTV stealing the motorbike, and it's the same guy they have in custody.
I knew exactly who he was because I had dealt with him before. He was a prolific offender.
If only he'd stuck to the speed limit, he might not have been caught this time. The man is charged with burglary, driving offences, and assaulting a police officer during his arrest. He pleads guilty and is jailed for 2.5 years.
I was happy for the victim because at that time, when we found the motorcycle, we could obviously return that to the victim. And it also brings closure to him.
A motorcyclist in a hurry and a determined road traffic officer have led to a major criminal being put behind bars.
For me, I just knew that I had dealt with a burglar who was a risk, and I had put him away, knowing that nobody else would have to be subject to his crimes anymore.
Back in London, a small case of a suspicious gambler has exposed a big money laundering network. A woman has been using different cards to buy thousands of pounds of chips at a casino before becoming a bit shy at the betting tables.
Her activity of, drawing on the card, so effectively cashing perhaps, say, £1,000 worth of chips, was a consistent pattern. She would then, maybe have a small, I would call, flutter here and there, make it look like she's gambling, but she hadn't really, spent anything.
DS Trevor Dickey and his team are now staking out the house where she lives with a man.
We strongly believed that the male and female were connected to each other, that they were most likely involved in a relationship.
They're still unable to identify the man and whether he's involved in the fraud too. But what they do discover are lots of transactions sent from fake accounts to the woman's accounts. She then uses her bank cards to buy chips in the casino, only to cash them in later in the evening. Trevor knows exactly how the money laundering gang work, but where is the money coming from?
We can stop this at its early stage. We can prevent, a lot more harm It's a very challenging thing to do. We need to get to the bottom of this because we need to stop this happening.
The accounts set up with fake IDs have addresses linked to them. So Trevor puts each of the houses under surveillance.
We started to build up this intelligence picture of addresses sort of scattered throughout, North London, South London, South East London.
The people who live there all have one thing in common. They're the same people, mainly Eastern European, who set up the fake bank accounts used to transfer cash to the main suspect.
She controlled a significant number of money mules. Money mule is really just a play on a drugs mule, somebody who moves money.
In North London, the surveillance team still have eyes on the female suspect and the mystery man. Trevor is about to make an astonishing discovery. A photo of the man is matched on the police database. He's Russian, and it's believed he has ties to bigger organised crime.
It was clear that this individual had been involved in this sort of activity for quite some time, and that the female at that same address was clearly his partner in crime.
With the discovery that a criminal gang could be involved, Trevor decides it's time to act.
We put together a plan, what we call a day of action, where we're going to execute search warrants at multiple addresses.
In the early hours of the morning, the police take the fraudsters by surprise.
I remained in our command centre, coordinating those arrests and coordinate where to take those particular individuals to relevant police stations, to also make sure that there was no ability for them to come into contact with each other.
The man and woman are arrested, along with other members of the scam. Police find a treasure trove of dodgy paperwork, fake IDs, and large bundles of cash. This is a long way from one casino customer acting oddly. But how it all fits together is still unclear to Trevor, and no one will talk.
So after the first round of interviews, our subjects were released under investigation.
Again, bear in mind, these people are foreign nationals, probably new to our sort of system.
That then gave us a period of time to analyse the materials that we'd seized at the addresses, so to build up our evidential package.
Shockingly, the seized evidence shows the money going into the woman's accounts is from an online scamming scheme.
This is a money laundering operation, but it's connected to a technology-enabled crime, which was phishing.
Victims are sent an online phishing link claiming to be from a trusted organisation, and which tricks them into providing their bank details, or worse, directly giving money. This money then goes into the fake accounts and is transferred to the woman who takes the cash out in casinos. The money is used to fund organised crime.
We certainly knew, as investigators, that there was a much bigger picture, and that this was really a global phenomenon, and they were just a small part of it. We were dealing with something a lot bigger here, a lot more criminality involved, and that perhaps this was just the tip of the iceberg.
The man with links to bigger organised crime seems to be the brains behind the money scams.
Our impression of him was that he was very much the technical expertise. He was actively involved in setting up phishing pages to lure people in to, one, voluntarily provide their bank accounts, but also for creating the recruitment pages to lure people in to be money mules.
Trevor and the team have taken down a criminal enterprise worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. The gang all plead guilty to money laundering.
Our subjects, were sentenced to prison terms ranging from as little as 6 months to a maximum of 3 years.
The woman cashing out at the casino got a 3-year suspended prison sentence. What started with a small piece of intelligence about a lone gambler has led to the dismantling of a global money laundering network. there's one more case to close today, where a routine traffic call-out on a busy match day has spiraled into a murder investigation led by DCI Steve Whitaker.
This certainly wasn't a tragic accident. There's certainly something more sinister to this than met the eye.
The victim was attacked by a group of men before being run over by his wife, Faria. She's now in custody, accused of murder, along with her best friend, Neelam. But the hunt for the rest of the gang continues. While Faria still refuses to cooperate, Neelam reveals to Steve that Faria did recruit the men to attack her husband.
What she told us became quite sinister, really, that she had recruited some friends, and the intention that day was to give him a bit of a good hiding. She played that down. She thought they were just going to give him a bit of a smack to stay away from her.
Neelam denies they were hired to kill him. But when Steve examines messages on her phone, he finds a very different story.
It was quite clear through the phone that it was far more sinister than that. There was days and days and weeks of text messages between Faria's phone and Neelam Cowser's phone. And obviously we got Neelam Cowser's phones. There's a real sinister one that said on the morning of the murder itself, "We need to do it today. It's on."
The texts show that Faria offered the men money to kill her husband.
If it wasn't so serious, it'd be laughable, to a tune of £200 to assist in killing her husband. I think if it's £200,000 or £200, you know, what price in a man's life, but £200 makes it the added insult for me that anybody would think that actually that's the price of a man's life.
The messages are the turning point Steve needs in this fast-moving case.
There was then some further evidence on there of Faria Khan saying it was quite clear that Faria Khan and some of the associates were actually watching the movements of Nawajid. He was being followed. So this wasn't a spur of the moment. This was a pre-planned attack, and a pre-planned attack that led to the death of Nawajid.
The text messages are not the only compelling evidence against the victim's wife.
We recovered a knife block from Faria Khan's house, and the knife block contained 5 knives with 1 knife missing, and that knife was in the car at the time.
What started as a report of an ordinary car accident is now a case of cold-blooded murder. And Steve is slowly piecing together what happened.
Nawajid was on his way to the takeaway where he worked.
Not realising his wife was planning to murder him that day.
Unfortunately, he didn't make it.
Faria drove the group of men close to the takeaway, ready to attack and kidnap her husband.
The car pulled up. The 4 lads got out the car and set about Nawajid Khan. And they set about him with baseball bats and hammers.
Faria watched from her car as the attack happened.
It was clear then that this was going wrong. He was getting away. He was managing to fight his way.
But he didn't escape, because his wife took matters into her own hands and brutally ran him over.
He, I think, just lost the plot and decided to kill him, and to kill him in front of lots of witnesses, lots of young children, lots of people that are travelling to a football match. I don't think she cared at that stage. I think she just lost her mind and decided, that's it, I'm going to do it, I've had enough. And she decided to kill him. This was a calculated murder, and probably one of the worst murders I've dealt with.
Steve has enough evidence to charge Faria and her friend Neelam with murder.
Unfortunately, for the investigation, the job doesn't stop there. We've got other people to look at and other people to bring into custody.
Based on the text message evidence and witness statements from the scene, he's identified the men paid to carry out the attack. Now he needs to track them down.
We needed to find out where they lived. We needed to arrest them, and arrest them as quickly as we could, because the longer it went on, the more chance there was that we were going to be losing evidence.
The men are soon found and brought in for questioning. They admit to being there, but deny planning to kill the victim.
We're trying to distance themselves, saying it wasn't me. We were just going to give him a smack, not to kill him.
But thanks to witnesses who saw the attack on the victim and physical evidence found in the car, the men are charged with murder. Steve and his team prepare the case for trial.
If you're as concerned as an officer in the case or a senior investigating officer, have you got enough to make a jury sure? Do they think beyond reasonable doubt that your case is watertight, that they can find them guilty? As a greedy police officer, you always want that bit more. And lo and behold, we did get a bit more.
Weeks later, out of nowhere, Steve gets a call from Doncaster Prison.
One of the men was charged with the murder, then went on remand. And whilst remanded in custody, he decided then to speak to a cellmate. He was in prison. Cellmate he didn't know. And again, it just shows what a bit of a fantasy world that these people live in. He then decided to tell him everything about the case. The cellmate then, luckily for us, came forward and he spoke to us in the investigation and told us exactly what had been said. That yes, they had gone that day. The intention was to get him in the car, and the intention was to murder him that day.
It's more strong evidence to put before a jury. The trial lasts 8 weeks. Finally, the defendants are found guilty.
Faria Khan was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 20 years. Neelam Kauza, she got life imprisonment with a minimum of 14 years. And the men, 2 of them were found guilty of murder. They got life imprisonment with a minimum of 17 years each. And 2 of the other boys in the car were found guilty of lesser offences, and they received between 7 and 8 years imprisonment as well.
What looked to be an unusual road traffic accident turned out to be a brutal and premeditated murder.
She put all this together. She got people, recruited people, and organised this. And this is a woman now who showed throughout the trial absolutely not one shred of remorse.
From an ordinary accident at a football match to a carefully planned killing.
She was a cold, calculating woman.
Join us again on Big Little Crimes, when everyday policing...
I noticed that it was a left-hand drive car, and it just stood out as being wrong.
...uncovers extraordinary crimes.
As soon as she got an opportunity, she jumped out of the car and she was away on her toes.
And cracks major cases.
When we work together, we can take out serious criminality.
From the 9-1, switch that over, that's the young blonde. I was at the West Coast, now I'm in the East Coast.